Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today as we have a session with Ron Vainberg on winning great relationships with realtors. Ron's been kind to us in the past, and he'll do a great job for us today. My name is Bill Kennedy with the New York MBA's Education Committee, along with our Education Committee Chairperson, Elizabeth Cheney, the President and Vice President of the New York MBA, which is Mike Pulver and Sherry Eccles, and our Executive Director, Joe Culver. Before we get started, a few quick housekeeping items. Please use the chat function to notify us of any technical issues you may have. During today's webinars, all lines are muted except for our presenter, which is Ron. And throughout the session, you can ask questions through the chat, and Ron has said he'd be happy to answer those while he's doing his presentation. We'll be sharing the presentation slides and relevant resources with you after the webinar. Always stay connected with the New York MBA. We're on LinkedIn. Our website is newyorkmba.org. And our YouTube channel is where we post our recordings, and that is at New York Mortgage Bankers Association. Always, we urge you to stay connected with the Mortgage Action Alliance. It's easy, it's free, and it's a way to stay informed on legislative issues that impact our business. And a couple reminders before we turn this over to Ron. Next week, Wednesday the 12th, we'll have a realtor and closing agent session with Jim Yockel, Christian Klug, and Tom Herkingham. And then we'll have an Affordable Friday session, Friday the 21st, with Lori Kessel from Freddie Mac, who's been on with us before. And on the 25th, which is a Tuesday, we'll have Jackie Gralczyk back with a 10 on Tech session. So we're here today to hear from Ron and get his expertise. So he's a 39-year veteran of the mortgage industry, previous highly successful real estate and mortgage professional. Well, he still is, but he's worked for banks, mortgage bankers, and he owned his own mortgage broker shop for some time. His specialty now is working with originators and leaders in providing simple yet high impact strategies that grow originations. And we can all use a little of that, Ron. So I'm going to turn that over to you now, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to the NYMBA for having me, and thank all of you for learn how to speak, being here with me today. So I'm really looking forward to this program, and as you can see, the title here is How to Win Great Agent Relationships with the Help of AI. So we're going to be talking about some old school, some new school, and we're going to put the two schools together to give you some tools and give you some strategies on how you can grow your business. But to get us started, the first thing we've got to do is I got to make sure that you got your chat box open. So open up your chat box and just send a quick message, and I can look right off camera, and I want to just make sure I'm engaging with you, because we're going to be using the chat box since you can't talk to me today, but I can talk to you, but I want to know that we're able to interact. So just say hello. Just give me some kind of message to let me know that you are here. So, okay, Jay, you're my first one here. Beautiful, they're all showing up. Great, so we got past the first hurdle. We got our chat boxes working. Number two is you have a handout that was sent to you, and the fill-ins are to keep you tracking with me. What you write, those ideas, those nuggets that you get, the things that you get out of your mind that I help trigger are the things that you're going to remember most. So make sure it's not just about getting through the fill-ins, it's about writing down the ideas that I stimulate in your head on things that you want to work on to build a path towards growing your business. One thing we do know is if you pay attention to, and if you've ever heard me speak before, I tell everybody, you want to listen to everybody who's making market predictions. Listen to them. Do not make decisions based upon them, and that is not an insult upon any of these great minds. These people are brilliant. These economists are brilliant. They understand the markets in ways that I don't. But nobody seems to be getting it right. They just keep revising their numbers over and over and over again. And the other thing is, when you listen to predictions, when you hear words like if, should, could, would, might, and those are part of the prediction, then what is it? It's all pure speculation. None of us have a crystal ball. So I believe in one thing, and that is focus on what you can control. So everything that I'm going to present to you, are things that you can control. And if you follow them, it'll allow you to build your business regardless of market conditions. These are the same things or the same principles that I work with my coaching clients with. Okay, when I do my private trainings, these are the same exact principles, the framework that we're going to be working from. It's going to be up to you to dive deeper into it, but I'm going to give you enough to get you going to move your business forward from where you are today. So with that, let's kick this right off and just go right to what we're talking about here. And that is marrying the human touch with technology. And it's amazing, you know, everybody's like fearful of AI, what's it going to be? And am I going to have a job and all these things? I can't predict 10, 20, 30 years into the future, but there are certain things that exist today and they continue to be proven over and over again. And that is, the more emotional a buying decision is, the more emotional any decision is, the more human engagement is required. And I can give examples, and I've done this in live where I can actually see people's face and they always laugh when I give this example. But I'll ask, you know, has anybody ever had an illness, a sickness, you weren't sure what you had and you really were concerned and you went on this internet thing, and by the time you finished Googling, you pretty much thought you were either going to die or you had nothing, but in the end, you absolutely were more confused than when you started your search? Well, but who got you in a good place? Another human being, another person who gave you the human touch, a doctor. You had some tests, whatever it was, that the internet couldn't do. And buying a house is still a very emotional process. For realtors to work with you, which is what our topic is today, it's still a very emotional process. Why? Because they have a commission on the line. And if they have a commission on the line, you might say, well, Ron, that's logical. It is logical that they don't want to risk their commission, but risk is an emotional response because some people look at it as risk and some people won't. So I want you to understand that we're going to marry these two. We're not going to, you know, this is not a whole AI training, but it's to jumpstart if you haven't already started going down this path, and also to try and realize what you really should be doing with it. Now, this is as of, I'm looking at the date here, Wednesday, March 5th, 2025, because 3 weeks from now, AI might be something different. A year from now, it might be something different because it is evolving at record pace. So let's get clear on what AI does. Let's just start there. So what does AI do? AI, first of all, what is AI? It's not a solution. And this is the way most people are talking about AI. AI is not a solution. AI is a tool. Now, I came up with another name for it because this is what I call my AI. My AI, and my AI could be all different types of programs that we use in my company, but my AI is what I call my super collaborator. AI, it can create, but it can't be you. AI in its writing has not yet mastered or even come close to mastering human emotion. Even the AI experts say, I'm sorry, I just got a note. Is there a problem with my sound? Something just popped up. Are you guys hearing me?
No,
okay?
you're fine. We can hear you fine. I can hear you
You
fine,
can hear me
Ron.
fine. Okay, I
Yeah.
saw something pop up on my
Yep, no,
screen. I
you're
couldn't
fine.
Okay, cool. So AI, as I was saying, is a super collaborator, but AI and even the AI experts, the creators, have said that they have not yet mastered, and they're ways away of mastering emotion for AI to really understand and capture human emotion. The truth of the matter is AI is not smarter than human beings. It just operates faster. In fact, some of the experts say AI is dumb because AI, all it does is it scours the internet for information. And everything that's been put out on the internet has been pretty much manufactured by humans. AI has taken it, repackaged it, or what have you, but it was still originated with the human mind. Now, they are working on advancements with AI. I think it's called AGI, which is supposed to be now then smarter than humans, but they're saying that's 5, 10, 15 years away. and they don't even know if it's going to work. So right now, I just want you to understand that it's a collaborator, but it's not smarter than you. It's not smarter than humans, but we want to leverage it. So I'm going to give you some examples as we go through this program. But what you want to understand is AI limitations. AI limitations. One, AI does not understand real emotion, which I just talked about. AI can't think for itself, at least not yet. AI, and you know, the most common one we're talking about is ChatGPT, but it could be Gemini, it could be Bard, it could be whichever ones that are out there, and all these other companies. I want you to understand something, because AI is such a hot topic. Everybody uses the word AI on everything, but there's a lot of garbage AI programs out there, that I will tell you. Why? Because I've taken a deep dive into it and I've been testing them, and some of them, no matter how good a prompt you give it, it just can't seem to figure it out, okay? AI does not know how to write normal conversations. AI does not know how to write normal conversations, and it can't replace your need to think and innovate. And here's the thing, right here, if you were to circle these on your handout, right here is so important, because so many people are thinking that this is what it does. And you know, one of my my son, one of my favorite movies to joke about. It's a movie that my son and I just hysterically laugh about. Okay, it's a stupid movie, but it's called Idiocracy. Has anybody ever seen that movie, Idiocracy? If you have, just let me know in the chat box. It's a movie called Idiocracy, where it's basically what happens to the world when people stop reading, and pretty much people just get dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber. If you like stupid humor, it's a must watch. Okay, I don't know if the chat box is frozen, because I'm not seeing anything happening there, but I know I just did ask a question. So let's do a retest. Okay, now it's, okay. So you've seen, some never see it, some have seen it, okay? But AI is not going to replace you unless you believe it will, and you don't do anything to think on your own and innovate. I want to give you a perfect example of something, and this, I just loaded this today because it happened to come up, okay? So this is an email from my business planning webinar that I do every fall. Okay, so back in November 19th, we were promoting a business planning webinar. By the way, I hate this picture. This was our email software. We wrote this content, and you know, just your typical promotion for a webinar, okay? Not the most elaborate, but certainly dynamic enough that we had over 500 people register for the program, so we must have done something right. No exaggeration. Today, this morning, I got this exact email. This exact email came in this morning. It's for a business plan. Now, I blocked out who it is and what have you. Free business planning webinar, which I'm not really understanding why they're doing it in March, but nonetheless, this whole thing was written by AI. How do I know that? One, you can look at the writing. Two, you can look at the format. Three, these icons scream AI all over them. So do those. And right now, I'm not going to do it here because we're not doing a full training on AI, but I could actually go in, if I could demonstrate for you right here on AI, I could say create, you know, I'm doing a business planning webinar, whatever, here's the particulars, and this exact format would come up. I could go in there and say, I want to do a social media post about whatever. Could you create it for me? And it'll come up in this almost exact same format. Okay? This is just pure lazy. This is just pure laziness on the people who are promoting this webinar. Okay? I'm giving you my opinion, but I'm very strong with my opinion on this because there's also something else that people don't realize. What they don't realize is that now spam filters are being trained to catch AI written documents or AI written messages and put them into spam, to put them into junk. And I'll give you one quick wild guess where this ended up in my email. It ended up in junk. Now, I'm not going to tell you that mine never ends up in junk in anybody's email box. I won't tell you that. But I know our delivery rates are above industry norm. Our open rates are above industry norm, and our response rates are above industry norm. And I can guarantee you, this one here, they're not going to get that because this went right into my spam filter. So I want you to think about what you're doing with AI and realize people are catching on the same way schools are catching on, the same way there are now software programs that are taught to read if something was manufactured by AI. I'm actually, I've written a book. It's coming out at the end of the month, and it's about winning agent relationships. It's actually a lot about what we're talking about here. I'm not selling you a book here. But interestingly enough, what we did is at first I started just to see if AI could help me, and I realized that AI really gave me a framework, but it couldn't write for me. It couldn't be me no matter how much I tried to teach it. But interestingly enough, just to make sure, what I did is I ran what I wrote through an AI checker to see if it would read it as it having been written by AI. And fortunately, knock wood or knock whatever, it came up with zeros every single time. I would have been kind of surprised if it didn't because I wrote pretty much every word of it. But I want you to understand that people are getting lazier and lazier and lazier, and technology is catching up and basically saying, we are not going to accept this. Am I making sense? Yes or no? Let me know in the chat box. So now what do we do with all this knowledge? Okay. We're going to go into 5 steps of winning great agent relationships. So there are 5 key steps, and they are: create your target list, do research, create and master your value positioning, gain attention and make appointments, and prepare and deliver your compelling presentation. These are the 5 steps. It is a framework. It is a framework for winning agent relationships. I'm going to spend a little time on number 1. I'm going to spend a little time on number 2. I'm going to spend most of my time on number 3, because when we get to number 3, you're going to understand that this right here, create and mastering your value positioning is the key to everything. And as much as I yell from the mountaintop, number 3, number 3, number 3, your positioning, so few people, even though they will acknowledge it's super important, so few originators will put in the time, effort, and energy to master this. It doesn't mean that you can't get business without it. And I'm not the guy who's going to get in front of a camera and say, if you don't do it my way, you're wrong. I've never done that. I never will. If you've written loans, if you've had success in this business, you must be doing something right. So it'd be very arrogant for me to say, you're doing it wrong if you don't do it my way. But what I have found is that my way does make things work better, makes things work easier. And the reason why is because it aligns with human emotion. And when you align with the way the brain or psychology works, getting people to say yes becomes easier. Getting realtors to say yes to you becomes easier. Getting borrowers to say yes to you becomes easier. And what's really cool about this is this psychology, this existence of behavior patterns is all around us. It's everywhere. We live in it every single day, but very few of us pay attention to it. So we live in the world of the psychology, is what I say. We live in this world, but when you start to pay attention and you start to see the patterns, you can take huge, huge advantage of them. And that's what we're going to be doing here. So step 1 is creating your target list. So creating your target list is, if you're going to win agent relationships, who are you going after? So I hear time and time again, I need more agents, I need more agents, I need more agents. And I say, hold on, slow down. I understand you need more agents, but we've got to ask some better questions, or make a better statement than that. We actually got to start asking some really good questions. So what are the questions? Questions are, where is your ideal market? Okay? Where is your ideal market? Well, it's anybody buying a home. No, not necessarily. Because the mind likes specificity. You can have multiple markets, but we want to understand our ideal market aligns with also who do we want to connect with in that market. But there's one piece that's missing here, and I want you to write it in. I want you to write it in right here saying, what does your company do really well? What does your company do really well? What do you do really well? So the best example I could give you, this was years ago. I was working with a company in California. Okay, they were a lovely group of people. They were a mortgage broker, and they were in the Bay Area of San Francisco. Now, in that market was primarily, and still is primarily, jumbo loans, jumbo financing. And as a mortgage broker, in that market, you could not, and you still can't compete with a Bank of America, a Chase, a Citigroup, a Citibank, a Wells Fargo. You can't compete with them because they're offering jumbo financing at the same or lower than conforming rates. So no broker can go to a wholesaler, not even a banker can go and get money and lend it out, because these banks are lending it out at these rates because they're trying to develop relationships with they're trying to get more customers. They're trying to get more people with deposits. And then they're offering them the banking relationships. So it's very easy to see what they're doing. So we can't compete with them. And I'm explaining this to the client. But what I said to them, and I'll go back here for a second, and this was a concept that they were just struggling. Let me just change the background here so you can see it better. There we go. So what they were struggling with was this. They were struggling with that I'm saying, this is the market for jumbo financing. These lenders offering these very low rates that you can't compete with represents this much of the market. You, as a mortgage broker, as a mortgage banker, can win all of this business. And there's a tremendous amount because these borrowers can't go here. They'll get turned down. And their response to me was, no, but we want that business. I'm like you and everybody else. But your company, your organization doesn't align with this. The only person who could go to these banks here, but would go to you, is because they don't know better. Because when the interest rate was 0.5% or more lower on multi-million-dollar loans, I don't think any of us, if we knew we could get it here, are going to pay more for it. So I got them, I'm like, focus here. And like, no. And I literally said to them one day on a coaching call virtually, I said, you might as well hang a piece of paper on the wall, say bang head here, and do that every day. Why? Because you're not in alignment with what your company does well. I know who you want to do business with, but automatically you have a misalignment. So you want to think about, what do you do really well? What does your company do well? And leave out the words, but everybody else does it too. I don't care about that, because that's not going to matter in a matter of minutes when I give you the rest of this. But when you know what your company does real well, when you know what you really do real well, you know who you want to work with, then you know where your ideal market is. And then you start searching for that. And you can use AI to search for that. You can actually use AI to ask questions like, in such and such county, like go onto ChatGPT. By the way, I recommend that you pay the $20 a month and use a paid version of Chat. Now, you can use Gemini, you can use Bard. I tend to use Chat more than any other. I don't care which one you use. I really don't. Each one has its pros and cons. But I believe in doing the paid versions because AI is so inexpensive to use. All the programs we use are so inexpensive, and they give you that much more when you're willing to pay a little bit of money, and it gives you better data. It gives you better information. It gives you faster responses. It gives you priority. So you can put in such and such county, in the last 6 months, where have there been predominantly more first-time buyers searching and purchasing homes? I don't know what the answer is going to be. It may come back with an incredible answer. It may come back with nothing. But it costs you nothing, or $20, to ask the question. Instead of you trying to figure it out, it's going to look on the internet for you. It's going to pull up that data. Now, just so everybody understands, the only thing AI searches is what's publicly available on the internet. That's it. And for the most part, where AI gets the bulk of its information is not from real-time internet searches, it gets it from what's called data sets. Data sets where the AI has been set to scrape the entire internet, pull in as much information that is available at that moment in time, and then it stores it, and then it goes to that data set to get your information, which is why sometimes information you'll get is stale. They're building more ability for AI right now to start searching real time, but it's still a lot of times coming up with data that might be 3, 6, 9 months old, depending on how old the data set is that it's working off of. Okay? So once we know where we want to work and who we want to target, and you can have multiple targets, then you start creating your dream list. And I tell people, create a list of 100 realtors that you want to target to develop relationships. Ron, there aren't 100 realtors in my county doing business. Yes, there is. You just don't have 100 that are doing a lot. But the more you have, the more relationships you have, not only the more business you do today, the more business you have as the market gets better, which I believe we are on the precipice, not soaring, but I believe we're on the launching pad to, actually launching pad means we're going up to space. I believe we're on the runway, okay? I believe we're on the runway to growth in our business, both from purchase and refi. I don't think it's going to be gangbusters. Now, you remember that thing I told you about predictions? I just gave you one. Listen to it, but don't make a decision based upon it, based upon what you can control. Okay, so we have to create our target list. Does this make sense? Yes or no? Number 2, let's do some research. What kind of research? Well, now, AI cannot get you, or none of these public programs can get you agent production information. Okay, that you subscribe to a service, either MMI or Real Estate Track Record, which is my favorite program. There are a few others. I don't know all of them, and I really don't care which one you use. But you want to figure out what your minimum standards. But if you're going to sit there and say, Ron, I am only going to do business with realtors that have closed 20 transactions in the last 12 months. Okay, tell me how many of them there are. And then I'll say, then tell me what skills are you going to use to displace the lender that they probably are already working with. By the way, I didn't say you're not going to displace the lender. I said, what skills are you going to use to displace that lender? And I've actually challenged people with questions like that, and they just kind of look at me and they go, well, I'm just going to reach out to them. I'm like, well, that's probably going to be a waste of time. You got to have a strategy. You got to have, what I'm going to get to in a minute, is a position which makes everything else work, okay? So you got to figure out who's going to be in your target audience so you can create your dream list. Then you want to do your connection information. So really simple. Go into AI, go into chat, go into whatever. So let's say I'm just picking a name. I'm looking for a name that I can pronounce easily on my board. Lisa Johns. Lisa, thank you for having a very simple name for me. So Lisa Johns, in this case, Lisa, you have just been converted to a realtor. So I'm going to go into ChatGPT and I'm going to say, I'm a I'm sorry, get my head going here. I am a mortgage loan officer looking to develop great relationships with real estate professionals in my market area. Please provide me all the information that you can find, both professionally about Lisa Johns from ABC Realty, of her accomplishments, any history relating to her real estate business, and also any other personal information that you feel would be relevant for me to be able to connect with her or potentially have a conversation starter with her. And that would be my prompt. And what'll happen is chat will come back. In fact, I think I might be able to show you one. Okay, wasn't planning on it, but since I'm talking about it, let's see. Files, downloads. I did this for, I thought it was here. Here we go. Okay, so this is a realtor that I looked up in my area. This was the exact response. I'm going to try and make it bigger. And I'm not expecting you to read it, but gave me, well, is a seasoned professional with over 40 years experience in Westchester and Putnam County. She leads the Nancy Kennedy team, blah, blah, blah. She was been ranked #1 in Westchester County, #5 in New York State, and 109 in the nation by the Wall Street Journal's top 1,000 realtors nationwide. That was in 2018, okay? It gives me the link as to where it got that information. It talks about her approach. It gives me the link where it got that information. It gives me ideas on how I might be able to connect. Now, I will tell you, just like I told you earlier, some of these ideas will never work. But every so often, you can find out something about the person, maybe on Facebook or Instagram, that it's going to allow you to have a reason to call. Now, this here, I wish this was a little bit more recent, where it said, nationwide in 2018. We're in 2025. It's been a little while, so I'm not going to call up Nancy and say, "Hey, Nancy, this is Ron Bainberg from ABC Mortgage. In 2018, I saw that you were ranked, #5 in New York, or 109 in New York, in the Wall Street Journal. What the hell happened?" No, that's not going to be my call, okay? But what I might do is be able to just find something even more recent. You don't know. You don't know until you look. But if I told you, which is what I used to teach before AI, before chat, I'd say, look at people's Instagrams, which I still want you to do. Look at their Facebooks, look at their websites. But when you got a tool like this, the super collaborator that can go out and search all of this based upon the prompts, it can't read pictures, it can't read video, which is why you still want to get more of a feeling for someone. But this is right at your fingertips. So I'm going to ask you a question, not if this makes sense. I'm going to ask you if what I just gave you is a helpful tool for you to use. Just let me know, yes or no. Okay. We've got a lot more people, I'm just telling you, we've got a lot more people on this program than the number of people that I'm seeing respond in this chat. So this is going to be Ron being a downstater here and telling you that, I'm in Westchester County, New York, so I'm not in New York City, but I'm going to go a little bit New Yorker on you and say, if you're multitasking while you're on this program, you're really not going to get much out of it, okay? If you don't want to chat with me on the chat box, that's cool too. I go respect that. But when I'm seeing the same 8, 10, 12 names and I've got 37 people that are participating, let's step it up a little bit, okay? So we've got our connection information, so now we know a little bit more about them. Now let's spend a little more time here. Create and master your value positioning. What does this mean? If you really want to stand out, you got to solve a problem or you've got to create an opportunity. When you solve a problem or create an opportunity, you have something more to talk about. I'm going to give you an example in just a minute. Once you know the problem solving, then you know what message to create. So here's what we're going to do, okay? I don't want you to try and write. Hey, Bill, I know we didn't discuss this in advance, and I don't usually let my webinars be endlessly out there for recordings. So we are going to give them access to a recording. We'll come up with, maybe 10, 20 days or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I normally just don't let it out forever. But you're going to have access to this recording. You're going to get a link to the recording from the NYMBA. So don't try to write what I'm going to give you right now. Just listen. Okay. Because I want to connect these dots for you. So I'm focusing right now, right here. So I have clients in upstate New York, and in a number of towns in upstate New York, I know that inventory is limited. Okay, and the Northeast actually is very limited, where there's many parts on the West Coast where they have inventory that's sitting. So we don't really have the same market across the country anymore, where everybody's having the same challenges and problems. But let's keep it to where we are. So I'm going to give you an example. Now, even if you don't like the strategy, I want you to just grab the process. I promise you this will make sense. Because once you understand what I do here, you can do it for any strategy. You can do it for any positioning. So to make clear what positioning is giving people a reason to listen to you. Because everybody listens to the same radio station. What's in it for me? That's what everybody listens to. So you're approaching a realtor, and the first thing that's going through their head is, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? Because they're getting approached by loan officers every day. Now we could spend 3 hours just going over different approaches and different scripting to get attention of agents. But if you don't have your positioning, you're at a disadvantage. See, there's a very popular positioning that's used, which I absolutely will. First of all, I would never work with anybody who would even use this because they're disingenuous. There are a number of coaching programs in the industry that teach loan officers, and if you belong to this one, I'm sorry, or any of them. They teach loan officers to call up realtors on Mondays and to say, I've heard so many great things about you, thought it was time I gave you a call. I'd really love to meet you and know more about your business. And that's their approach. When they have not heard anything about that realtor, the realtor's just a name on a list. And so they call up and they say this to realtors. And I'm not going to tell you it doesn't work. To me, though, it's just disingenuous. And plus, it's so easy to counteract, okay? Because I teach people how to undo that. But what are they playing on? They're playing on that somebody feels flattered that people are talking about them. What I teach my clients is to ask a realtor, and don't call on a Monday, call on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, apologize for all the calls that they're getting from loan officers, find out if they're getting a number of calls on Monday, which the realtors always seem to say they are, and then just say, by chance, have you ever had a loan officer call you up and say that the reason they're calling you is because they've heard a lot of great things about you? And the realtor is going to say yes, because they have so many loan officers calling them on Mondays. I'll say, have you ever, I tell my clients, I say, ask the realtor, have they ever asked them what they heard and who they heard it from? And every single time my client asks the realtor that question, they say no. I said, the next time you speak to that loan officer, why don't you ask them that question? And you're going to see that the conversation is going to go in a very different direction. Because they're not going to be able to answer. They're going to tell you they can't remember. And then my question is, if somebody really heard so many great things about you, don't you think they'd remember? And then I'd ask, how do you feel about a loan officer that calls you up starting off by lying to you? Now, I know what I just gave you is right between the eyes here. And it might be a little bit softer depending upon who I'm speaking to. So I know some of you are saying, Ron, I could never say that. It doesn't have to be said exactly that way, but I want you to understand conceptually that just by asking a few questions, I don't have to know who my competitor is. I don't have to say anything bad about my competitor. I just have to recognize the pattern of what they're doing. And then I can ask questions that give me an advantage. So before I go any further, not that I would expect you to master what I just gave you, but I want to ask you, does it make sense how questions can really be a game changer in your approach? Let me know in the chat box. Because if you really sum up what this whole program is about, it's about asking great questions. So many people are focused, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say? And I'm teaching you not what are you going to say, what are you going to ask? Because when you master the art of asking great questions, you become an unstoppable force. Unstoppable force. Lisa wrote, seek first, understand. Yeah. Right from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That book is somewhere here on it's right here. Right here. I've had this book so long, it was written over 40 years ago. So long ago that the pages, well, I don't know if you can see it, but there's even highlights from when I highlighted multiple times because I've read it multiple times. I think I actually have a second one where the pages are actually yellow because I've had the book for so long. Not that you need to know any of that. Back to our positioning. So, if you don't want to do this concept, please keep listening because it's the strategy that makes the difference. So there's a very simple concept that I teach, which is called a neighbors only open house. What a neighbors only open house is, it's very simple. I know already I know there's a couple of you that are saying, I'm not going to do open houses. I understand. Keep listening, because even if you don't want to do open houses, you can apply the strategy to something else. So a neighbors only open house is very simple. Your typical open house, let's say, goes from 10 to 1. Well, what you do is you work with the realtor to set up a neighbors only open house between 1 and 2. So you're just extending it for an hour, but during that hour is when the neighbors have been invited over. Now, maybe they're invited over through social media, maybe they're invited over through door knocking, maybe they're invited over through direct mail, maybe they're invited over through door hangers. There's all different ways to invite neighbors, okay? But what happens is, the first thing that does is we always, if you've ever worked at an open house, there's always the neighbor or the nosy neighbor that comes over who doesn't want to talk to anyone. They come in what I call stealth mode. You don't see me, right? And they don't want to talk to anybody. But when you've invited them to come, now they're willing to talk. They're willing to talk to you. They're willing to talk to the realtor. And if they're willing to talk to the realtor and they're willing to talk to you, that becomes an opportunity, correct? So a neighbors only open house could potentially lead to more business for you, but more importantly, to the agent that you're going to help. It's a very, very super simple concept. Now, what problem am I solving? So now I meet my realtor, Jeffrey Witherwax. Jeffrey Witherwax. So I meet Jeffrey Witherwax, the realtor. I'm not going to get into whether it's a networking function or wherever, it doesn't matter. But I meet, hi Jeffrey, my name is Ron Vainberg, I'm with ABC Mortgage. I was really hoping I was going to have the opportunity to meet with you. Now, if I was hoping to meet with Jeffrey, I would have looked him up. Okay? I'm not going to go up to him and say, I got you on my phone. That would be kind of weird. But I'm going to say, Jeffrey, I've really been looking forward to meeting you because I did my homework and Jeffrey's on my dream list. I said, Jeffrey, I noticed that you have listings every so often and you've done open houses. Have you ever worked with a loan officer at your open houses? And see, I don't care whether Jeffrey says yes or no. Jeffrey might say, I have an existing lender relationship, which is probably the most common one. I'll say, Ron, I appreciate you coming, but I have an existing lender relationship. Jeffrey, I expected that you did. I just wanted to find out if you've ever worked with a loan officer at one of your open houses, that when you do the open house, they help you get noticed by the entire neighborhood, meet neighbors, build your database for future listings, potentially future buyers, and you might even get a listing opportunity right from the open house. And at that point, Jeffrey's going to say, no, or how would you do that? And this is the key. The neighbors only open house does all of that. Why? Because the moment I get your realtor, or the moment I get Jeffrey, exposure to the neighborhood, do I help him get more listings potentially? Yes. Do I help him build his database? Yes. Could he get buyers from this? Yes. Does he get more exposure? Yes. He gets all of those things and so much more just by this extra hour that's promoted. But if I go up to Jeffrey and I say, Jeffrey, I want to tell you, has anybody ever done a neighbors only open house with you? I'm not getting anywhere. What I did is I identified a problem and or a solution. When Jeffrey says, well, how would you do that? Now I have a reason to schedule a meeting with him. Well, Jeffrey, it sounds like you're interested in it. When could we get together so I could share with you to see if this would be right for you? Well, Ron, can't you just tell me now? Jeffrey, I guarantee that someone's going to interrupt our conversation here, and I'm sure you're going to have questions. But if I'm able to help you do this, wouldn't it be worth for us to get together for 10 minutes? I promise you, I'm not going to waste your time. See, if Jeffrey's not willing, Jeffrey, I'm talking to you. Jeffrey, if you're not willing to meet with me, you're not getting that idea. You're not getting that idea because the truth of the matter is my meeting with you is not going to be about that idea. That's going to be the icing on the cake. When we get together in our meeting, it's going to be finding out what's most important to you first. What are your pain points dealing with lenders and loan officers? What are the frustrations? Because when I uncover those in our face-to-face meeting, not only can I offer you this, but I can offer you additional solutions based upon the other problems you tell me you have or the other frustrations you have. So I just strung a lot together here. Question number one, Does it make sense? Yes or no? Doesn't matter whether you like the neighbors only open house or not. Does the concept of solving a problem or identifying an opportunity make sense? Yes or no? Okay. Now, here's the key. So I'm getting a lot of yeses. Beautiful. Now, this is one of the keys to everything I talk about. Everything I share is simple. Everything I share is simple. But nothing I share is easy. Easy means little to no effort, which is what most people want. Simple means it's not complicated. And what I just shared with you is 1000% not complicated. I didn't use words that were hard to learn. I didn't use questions. None of it was hard. It's all simple, but you have to, simple only works when you make effort. That's when simple works. Simple works when you're willing to make the effort. And the majority of people in our industry, not all, but the majority of your competitors are not willing to make the effort, no matter how simple it seems. They're not willing to make the effort to learn it and master it. And that's the pattern that if you're willing to make the effort, go deeper, go further, do what average and ordinary typical loan officers don't do, that's how you get more business. That's how you increase your market share. And you've already agreed with me. This was simple, but unless you have a photographic memory, it's not easy because it's still going to take effort to learn it. And that is what it takes. I once had somebody said, well, aren't you going to teach all this to us on our webinar? I go, in a 60-minute webinar? Seriously? They got all annoyed in the chat box. They started saying some nasty things. We kicked them out, obviously. But I was like in disbelief. Like in a 60-minute free webinar, they wanted everything. And here's the funniest thing. One, it would be impossible to teach it in an hour. But the second thing is, the person who gets it all for free, they'll do nothing with it. They'll do nothing with it. 98% of people who attend free programs do nothing with what they learned. 98%. 90% do nothing with what they learned at a paid program. This is why I always tell everybody, never worry about your competition. Do not worry about your competition. Do not worry about simple versus easy, whatever. Just worry about or focus on, worry is a bad word. Focus on the effort that you're willing to make, and that changes everything. So you can create all sorts of positions. It doesn't have to be a neighbors only open house, but you just want to start thinking about what problem are you solving, what opportunity are you creating, and then I taught you the message. I asked a question because you must answer what's in it for them. I know WIFM says what's in it for me, but you're answering it for them. What's in it for them to keep listening? What's in it for Jeffrey to meet with me? See, some of you have set up meetings and they don't go anywhere, and they get canceled. And they set up meetings and they don't cancel, and they're not loyal. Why would they set up a meeting if they don't cancel? Because you didn't give them enough reason to keep the meeting. It was easy to get them to say yes to the meeting. It was harder to get them to keep the meeting. People keep meetings when they believe the benefit to keeping the meeting is greater than the time that they would invest to keep the meeting. There has to be that value. But so many of us know the value of our services in our head, but we don't know how to put it out there. We don't know how to articulate it, which is why positioning gives you a huge competitive advantage. And that's why I spent a good portion of the program right here. Because once you have your positioning, now you know how to gain attention. Now you know how to make the appointment. I just showed it to you. I gave you one example that you can just keep expanding on. Now you got to create a contact plan. When I called and they didn't respond to my text or my email, well, keep reaching out. If there's someone on your Dream 100 and you can't get them on the phone or you can't reach them, Look when their next open house is, pay them a visit. Let's say there's a networking function that's going on, calling up, hi, this is Ron Bainberg from ABC Mortgage. There's a such and such networking event going on next week, and I just wanted to find out, are you going to be there? Because I was really hoping to meet you. Please give me a call back either way. And if they're going to that networking function, you go to that networking function. Come on, Jeffrey, I'm Ron Bainberg. It's so great to meet you. I'm so glad you're here. You know, I was hoping I could just ask you a question. Really? Sure. And by the way, just saying I was hoping to ask someone a question, people always say yes. Why? Because we're programmed to answer questions. We've been answering questions since we were this big. In fact, I can give you an example. I want you to think about a time that you said, no, somebody couldn't ask you a question, and there's only two scenarios that I can think of. Scenario number one is you are so busy and you know the person is going to ask you a question and it's going to distract. So, can I ask you a question? No, you can't ask me a question right now, but come back to me later. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is when you're in an argument with someone and they say, can I ask you a question? And all of a sudden you feel, you know, if they ask this question, you're about to lose the fight. So you say no. Okay? I'm wondering if any of you can relate to this in your personal relationships right now. I know I can. Okay? And I hope you're laughing with me because we say no because we're using it as a defense mechanism. But when somebody's just coming up in casual conversation, would it be okay for me to ask you a question? The yes is automatically triggered. It goes on all day long. So, we create a contact plan on how we're going to connect with them. And remember, nothing happens until you make a phone call, send a text, go to an email, visit an open house, go to a networking function. And I know some of you are overthinkers because you're trying to make everything perfect because you don't want it to fail. I wish I had the formula for that. But I can assure you, if I had the formula for that, the NYMBA couldn't afford me to do this. Couldn't afford to pay me. Because it's the silver bullet that everybody wants that nobody has. Nobody could afford me. Because I'd sell it, and then everybody else would be using it. You can't get through this without somebody saying no. You can't get through this without somebody hanging up on you. You can't get through this without somebody rejecting you. But the more that happens, the more you'll make the effort to master the skills, the more people will say yes to you. And I can say this as a former no avoider. I'm the person who used to be terrified of no's. Today, I really don't care. I don't care. Because if you say no to me for something I'm offering or doing or whatever, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself, was this the right target audience? Second thing, if they were the right target audience, what could I have done better to try and influence that person to say yes when I know that working with me would have been beneficial? Every no is a learning experience if you're willing to make the effort to learn from it. But if you look at human behavior, most people get 1, 2, 3 no's. This doesn't work. And they move on. Am I making sense? Yes or no? And just because I'm making sense doesn't mean it applies to you, but it probably does. And everything I'm saying that I said may apply to you, I got a finger coming back at me too. Okay? In fact, I learned every time you point a finger, you've got 3 coming back at you. Look here first and you'll solve most of your problems. Okay? And then finally, sorry, my voice is getting a little hoarse. So you gotta execute, make the appointments. And then when you go to your appointment, you gotta prepare and deliver a presentation, a compelling presentation. Have a real presentation. The number one presentation used by loan officers, whether it's one-on-one or to a group, is winging it. Number one presentation people use is winging it. They don't really have a plan. They don't have a structure. Having a plan, having a structure gives you a significant advantage. If I'm going to meet a realtor, if I'm a loan officer, if I go back to being a loan officer, so I go to meet Eloisa. I hope I said that right. Eloisa. So Hi, Eloisa. It's so great to meet you. I'm glad we both could make time to get together today. Oh, I did. Thank you, Eloisa. So we sit down, go through some pleasantries, and then I say, Eloisa, before we get started, can I ask you a question? It's a question I ask every agent that absolutely amazes me at the answers I hear. Could I ask you? Now, what did I just do? I just cast a hook to Eloisa because she wants to know what this question is. And I say, Eloisa, I don't want you to name any names. No names, no companies, no individuals. I just want to ask you is when dealing with lenders and loan officers, whether it's someone you work with or someone that you never have dealt with, but the borrower went there for financing, what are the things that frustrate you the most? And Eloisa is going to start talking. And she's going to talk for two reasons. One, because we all as human beings like to be heard. And it's an unusual question that they usually don't get asked by loan officers. And two, I just tapped into one of our greatest desires. One of our greatest desires as human beings is to bitch and complain. And I know you're laughing, but it's true. People love to bitch and complain. And you know what? People absolutely like people who will listen to them bitch and complain. So I want you to understand, I'm starting off. Remember, I got the appointment because of the neighbors only open house? But I just redirected the whole thing to find out what her pain points are, because here's the thing, as we wrap up, when I get Eloisa to tell me what her frustrations are with loan officers, all I have to do is talk about what my solutions are. Now, there's a way to do it, but all I have to do is deliver to Eloisa my solutions, ask her if these would be helpful to her, which I know they will because she just detailed what she doesn't like. And that automatically puts me in a better position to win business. It puts me in a better position to ask for the relationship. It puts me in a better position to ask for that first chance. And then I still have the ability to continue my conversation to talk about the neighbors only open house or whatever I did to get that appointment, whatever positioning I used. So there's a lot here, okay? There's a lot here that I've given you. And I encourage you to continue your journey, wherever you choose to continue it, okay? I will tell you, I am not selling anything here. There are services that I offer. I offer coaching, I offer training. We actually have a big event coming up, Purchase Mastery. We've been doing them. We haven't done it in over a year and a half. We've done them privately, but we haven't done a public one. We have one coming up in May. It's a virtual event. It's going to be very much like this, except you're going to be on camera and I'm going to be on camera. We're going to email you a very special offer if you want to attend that program, or if you just want to know more about what I do, okay? If you want to find out about coaching, you want to find out about my services, you can just reach out. I'm very accessible, and Maria will set you up. Maria's my amazing assistant. She'll set you up to connect with me to explore what might be a great place for you if you want to start and go further with me. So that's all I'm going to talk about, my services, and that we'll reach back out to you. But from what I gave you here today, the question is, you're here because of the NYMBA. Okay, now I don't know if you're able to read everything that's on the screen here, but you're here because of the NYMBA. You're here because of Mike. You're here because of Joseph. Okay, you're here because of Bill. And I just want, and I feel terrible right now because we were talking, and I know I'm coming to your company, and I'm very transparent. I just went completely blank.
It's Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, thank you. Oh my God, Elizabeth. You have no idea how much sweat right now is pouring through my shirt because I feel really stupid. Okay, especially when I know I'm coming to your company. But listen, Elizabeth, the one thing we've done this before, I'll own it. So I own it. So I'm so sorry.
No worries.
But in recovering, sweating, in recovering from this as best as I can, the NYMBA cares to help you. So I'm here today. I'm a small piece. The NYMBA, the whole team, they're going to keep helping you. But I'm going to encourage you to help yourself. I'm going to encourage you to seek out the help from someone if you're not where you want to be. There are so many resources out there, all extremely affordable, some more expensive, but depends on what you're looking for. But there's always a way to learn and grow if you're willing to make the effort. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for allowing me to be, Ron, you're lucky Elizabeth is a super nice person. Oh, Mike, hell yeah. I know I'm super nice. I mean, I know Elizabeth is super nice, okay? And I can pretty much guarantee that when I go up and see Elizabeth at our company next week, somehow this might come up, okay? Somehow I just have a feeling this is going to come up. Elizabeth, go easy on me, please. That's all I can ask.
No worries, Ron.
Thank you. Elizabeth, Bill, I'm going to leave it to you guys to close it out. But I want to say thank you to all of you for allowing me to be here, and I'm hoping you got something valuable out of it.
Well, thanks, Ron. Great job, and I love your technology too.
Same.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
the presentation looks great, and you hit on a lot of great topics. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, and until our next one, I
Perfect.
want to wish you all the best. Make it a great spring season. Put in the effort. And Elizabeth, I'm so excited really to meet you face to face next week with you and your company.
See you
So,
next
thanks.
week.
See you next week.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much,
everybody,
Ron.
for joining.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.